In today's show, I'm going to look at 4 different ways on how to break an opponent down in ground fighting, plus look at what I call an aggressive defense. So if you want to know what that is, stay tuned. Hi everybody, I'm Steve Scott and welcome to another episode of Freestyle Judo. I have a lot on tap for the show today, so let's jump right into it. First we're going to look at breakdowns, and that means breaking an opponent down from a stable to an unstable position. And breakdowns can occur in any situation in ground fighting, whether you're on your knees. Today we're going to focus on breakdowns from a front neutral position where both contestants or both athletes are on their knees facing each other, but you can do it when somebody's flat on his belly. You can do it from the bottom position in Newaza, like in a bottom guard or top guard, or when he's turtled up, elbows and knees. There are plenty of ways to do breakdowns. And remember, the overriding factor is always you're breaking an opponent down from a stable to an unstable position, putting yourself in a better position than him and maintaining that position. You always try to improve your position in ground fighting, or even standing for that matter, obviously, but we're talking about ground fighting right now. So we're going to look at 4 videos on pretty basic, pretty fundamental moves, but boy, are they effective from front neutral kneeling position. So we're going to do that first, and then we're going to talk a little bit about an aggressive defense. An old Japanese term that I picked up originally reading Don Draeger many years ago called Kobo Ichi. And I'm going to explore that a little bit today, and I am going to devote a whole show on that in the future. But right now I'm going to give you a tease on that, on how to use an aggressive defense, and you'll see that later in this show. Okay, I got a really good question to round out the show. To finish it out later on. So keep watching. Well, let's start with first things here. Let's talk about breakdowns from a kneeling neutral position. This is a common position in judo, sambo, whatever it may be. Even if you're there just for a split second, if you know how to react well and get the edge, get the drop on your opponent, he's going to be on his back and you're going to be on top of him. You know, you're going to have control of the guy. So that's what this is about. These 4 little videos are. And again, there are a lot of ways to get a guy down from front kneeling position, neutral position. This is what you're going to see here are 4 that I teach a lot and I think really are effective. And they're when you see them, they're kind of basic but good. Okay, so let's look at the first one. All right, the first one is, I'm looking at my notes here, everybody, is when front both legs breakdown is what I call it. And there are 3 ways of doing this. This video is going to be the longest of the 4 videos that I'm showing on the subject. This will be about a 3.5-minute video. The first one is the basic way to shoot in and get the double leg, and you'll see what I mean when you watch the video. Second way is to kind of how to shave that corner, round that corner if he sprawls out or gives some resistance. And we'll show that. Actually, Derek will be showing quite a bit of this, and I'll do commentary as well. And the third way is what I call a front dump, and you'll see what I mean when you watch the video. So let's take a look at how to do the front both legs breakdown in this very first video. So here we go. Sometimes we get stuck and we're both in a neutral knees position. We're facing each other. So Derek on the right there, and they're going to have your hands. Go ahead, Eric, have your hands up like you're actually. Now, what Derek's going to do, you want to come to my side here so we can, okay. So, yes, stay where you are, that's good. All right, so what Derek's going to do, he's going to really shoot under and get a double leg, but he's going to come to the side and he wants to turn that corner. Now, that's pretty basic stuff. You'd be surprised how often that works, okay? So he's going to pop up, get under and catch, okay? Eric, can you turn around with your butt or your back toward me so we can get a better view? So when Derek does this, he pops up and he comes around and he catches the double. Look at the head and the hips. That's essential. Now look where his hands are, okay? He's grabbing each leg separately, right above the knees. If he wanted to, he could split them apart, but you don't want to grab your hands together because it just doesn't work as well. It's not as strong. You don't get to scoop him as deeply, because what Derek's going to do, he's going to move around to his left, and he's going to just sweep with his hands. Bam. That's a nice big boom. And it's amazing how many times you really catch it. It really is a good basic move, okay? All right, so let's take that one more time, and he's going to dump, come under, and a front double leg and catch, okay? Show them that adaptation you want to do from there,
okay.
And then why don't you coach it through?
Okay. So one that's more of a breakdown and less of a big sweeping boom is I'm going to try and get under and get to the side, and then I'm going to go straight that way. So I still pop under and catch this, but if I'm having trouble lifting him up, I'm going to come over to the side right here, squish his legs together, and then drive that way, okay? So same thing, pop, come through.
It looks very similar, but this is more of a side breakdown,
right.
More of a double leg breakdown from the side. So and there may be actually a little hitch in the action. He may stop you to some degree.
Usually that's why I'll go for this one, is I'm going for the big sweep the legs to the side, but something happens. Either I didn't get in under correctly, he's swelling out a little bit more, I'm tired, whatever it is, I didn't get the initial move. So if there's that hitch, I just take the side position and go straight through his hips.
The guy may even like post out with his left leg or something. So when Derek comes in and shoots see like that? Now he's going to have to kind of round that corner to help him get the breakdown. So it's really essential that you round that corner, like we say, shave off the edge, and that's what we're doing there, okay? Okay. Another way is if you shoot the double and for some reason you get your head stuck under like this, okay, you think, oh boy, Derek's going to sweep him over and do it, but it may not work. So what he's going to do, see where his head is on the top guy, Eric's right hip? Okay, so you notice how he's got the legs. Now watch what Derek does. He scoots his butt to his own right, and he just dumps him off to the side, right there. And it looks like, and so you don't have this big sweeping movement. It's a sneaky little move that really works. It's a great breakdown from this neutral position here. Come to the side and catch one more time, and then we'll practice these three moves. Come aside. We just call that the front dump. Okay, so that, I think that pretty well explained what the idea of it, front two-leg attack. There are a lot of ways to do that, a lot of ways to go behind them that really work well. That last one we showed, the front dump, I used it with some frequency in my own, when I was competing and doing a lot of randori and stuff, and it worked for me quite well. And one of our athletes who's used it really well in his competitive career was Sean Watson in his judo career. He used that with once in a while with some really good effects. So the front dump is quite simple, but just because it's simple doesn't mean it's simplistic. It really does work. So that was the first on those three basic ways to do it. Now let's look at another one that everybody knows. If you do judo, you'll know what this is. And it's a koshi-garuma breakdown. And this is great, especially for kids. I teach this when I was coaching kids a lot. This was one of the first breakdowns I taught them. And it really does work. And you'll see, the koshi-garuma, before we get started, this koshi-garuma, this hip wheel movement, is a natural movement. If you watch two kids wrestle around in the front yard or somewhere, or, two beginners come in, grabbing around the neck and trying to roll somebody over him is a natural movement. So this is what we're doing here. It's a natural movement. We're just adding some good basic skills to it so it works with a high frequency of success. So let's take a look at a short video on koshi-garuma breakdown. Here we go. Basics always work. You can't get away from good fundamentals. Here's a fundamental breakdown, or get from the ground fighting to in a turnover type thing. And we're going to work on first around the neck, then around the waist. Okay, and think of these as kind of like throws on the mat, like newaza or ground fighting throwing techniques, because that's pretty much what this is. You'll see what I mean in a moment here. So we're grappling here, whether we're on one knee, one or up, whatever like this, we're grappling, and we're kind of in a neutral position, okay? If I had no gi, I could do it slightly differently, but I've got a gi, I got all these handles I can grab, I'm gonna use this. So we're gripping here, and what I wanna do is I wanna get his sleeve, just like I'm grabbing, like in a basic judo throw, okay? and I'm going to pop his balance just slightly like this, but I'm going to go around his neck and come into what looks like a koshiguruma. And it is a koshiguruma, it's only on the knees. It's a hip will on the knees, so come in nice and high. So basically learning it, you're both nice and high. Okay, so pop them here, come around here, and keep turning, and roll them right over, right in case you get down. So come, let's face this way, right here, so you can see the different version of it. So the basic variation of it, application, break his balance, come in here like this, roll them over. Don't let go of anything, just sit right in the case of gatami. Okay? So that's the first one. Koshiguruma. So if the koshiguruma works, and it does as a breakdown, why not use ogoshi? You know, ogoshi is a good breakdown. It's a good throw, very, very powerful throw, and it certainly comes up a lot in ground fighting too. You can grab someone around the waist and roll them over. So this third clip is another short one, but it shows how to use ogoshi as a breakdown in front neutral position. So watch here it goes. Surprisingly, a lot of guys, good guys, somehow get caught in this. Because a lot of times they may be kind of reaching over for you, and as they do, you grab around their waist. And you're doing ogoshi on your knees. And that's really what it is. So if he is reaching for me, even better, because I could grab around his waist, get a good tight waist here. But basically, break his balance, around his waist, come in, roll him over. Now, I've got my arm stuck here, so Keisagatame might not be the best option for me. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to quickly come back in here and shift into Munigatame, chest hold. That's probably my best option. Come here for this side here. So kind of watch while we're doing this. So break his balance, grab around the waist, get tight waist, come in, roll him. Now I'm leaning right on him. Boom, take the starch out of him, just like a throw. Now from here, see I've got around here, quickly underhook, sink it in, Munigatame. So they're two real good basic breakdowns from a neutral position. You know, breakdowns can come from any position. He's on elbows and knees, flat on his belly, fighting guard, top guard, bottom guard. They're all mainly, a breakdown is breaking down from stable to unstable position. That's all it is. Okay. That pretty well explained, you know, the basic application of how to do ogoshi, but sometimes you may try that, or you may be bent over. In this fourth video shows a very realistic situation where your opponent may have the edge on you somehow, and you're bent down a bit, and you have to do what I call a tight waist. And a tight waist is like grabbing around his waist like you would in ogoshi, and you're controlling him with your arm and your hand around his waist. And I'll show that in this video clip here. But also how to use a knee tap or a knee block to break him down. And this is a very effective breakdown. There are a lot of variations of this particular breakdown you're going to see here in a moment, but this is my basic form that I teach my guys in Welcome At. So I think you'll like it too. So we're looking at a tight waist and knee block breakdown in this fourth video. So here we go. Grappling in a neutral position. Okay, and he kind of gets the edge on me, and he beats me here, okay? Oh, rats, you know. Some things you can do. There are options you have here, okay? But let's look at one of them that we've been working on here. It's kind of an ogoshi off the mat. Here's a good example where I'm going to counter. So if I've got him, and you can see how he's dominating me here. Anybody can knock me down, you know, but I've got this opening here, quick tight-waisted here, okay? Now I have some options of what I can do. So let's look at the most basic. He's tight waist him here, and now I can't throw in that direction because I'm really off balance. So I'm going to go in this direction. I'm going to go over here, okay? So I'm basically going to do an ogoshi across his body. So lock him here, grab the elbow, okay? And I'm just going to kind of quickly scoot across him this way as quickly as I can. I'm not going to get very far, I realize that. That's why I've got to tight waist him. If I don't have a good grip with my hand around his hip, it's not going to work, okay? So I've got to have it tight right here, like this, and it's rolled right over, wham, and on top of the guy. And I mean, we're feeling ribs on ribs here, and I'm really crushing him. And then come to the top. So that's one option. The other option, if I can't get my hand on his arm, or his sleeve, or even his wrist, any of this stuff.
So if he's dominating me here, boom, I'm stuck. Oh, I'm in trouble here. But get your hand around the waist, tight waist him. See, like we did before. Come turn it. See, tight waist him here, like this. Okay? Come on back. He's dominating. Tight waist here. Now watch. With this hand, I'm going to scoop here. I'm just going to block. And when I do that, I'm going to drive my body in that direction. Block. Wham. Come across. That's a good move too. If you can't get your hand on his wrist or sleeve or elbow to pull. So, he's dominated me. Boom. Tight waist. He's pulled that away, let's say. Oh. Take him down. See how I move that quick? It's just a tight waist and knee block. But it's the same principle we've been doing, kind of like Ogoshi off the knees. Make sense? Want to try that?
Okay, just to round it out here, there are a lot of ways of breaking an opponent down or getting the edge on them when you're in the front kneeling neutral position. Okay, what you want to avoid always, at all costs if possible, are two things. One, you don't want to scramble where you're 50-50. You don't want to be on even odds with your opponent. You always, like I say, you never want to go into a fair fight. You want the edge. So don't end up in a scramble. So a lot of times when you are in a kneeling front position, you're kind of at a 50-50, nobody has the advantage situation. That's what you don't want. So you have to make sure you change that, okay? And the second thing you want to do when you do this is gain a position, and after you've gotten out of that scramble, continually improve your position. And that's what these breakdowns do. There are a lot of ways of breaking somebody down, but these four, I think if you teach these to beginners and drill on them a lot, I think they're going to have a really good advantage in fighting off the knees in the situation. So these are good breakdowns for that situation. And remember, I stress the fact that a breakdown is breaking an opponent down from a stable to an unstable position. There are a lot of ways to break an opponent down. Okay, these are just some off the front neutral position when you're on your knees. So that pretty well covers that for now. I will be doing a future show on a lot of different breakdowns and different types of breakdowns. So stay tuned for that. That's a particular item that I think is really, really not taught enough. Breaking an opponent down. One final note on that before we move on to our next thing is that breakdowns are like the cement that holds the bricks together. Okay, the bricks are the techniques, the cool moves that score and make them tap out, or you pin them for time, or whatever it is. But the breakdowns are the things that make that happen. Just like a cement or mortar holding up a brick building, that's the stuff that holds the bricks in place, that cement. So these breakdowns are very fundamentally important to hold the bricks together. Okay, so that's how I look at breakdowns, and that's how important they are. So we should work on them more often. So there we go. All right, let's take a look at aggressive defense. Many years ago, first of all, I'm a big fan of Don Dreger. I think Don Dreger has done more for promoting and teaching people judo than a whole lot of people out there in the world. He lived and trained at the Kodokan for many years. He wrote a lot about judo, but he wrote a lot about a variety of other martial arts as well, Japanese and non-Japanese martial arts. So he really was an expert in the field of martial arts. And I think judo was his base, if I'm not mistaken, but he certainly was prolific in his writings about judo and the history of judo, the history of martial arts, and the concepts and theories that drove and made martial arts what they were, the different types of martial arts. One of those concepts from feudal Japanese, Jiu-Jitsu, from the samurai, wherever he got it, I just don't remember reading his books on this subject where it came from initially, but it's a very old one. It's concept of Kobo Ichi. Kobo Ichi. And Kobo Ichi means attack and defense are kind of one and the same. They're fluid. They're interactive. And so if you think about if you do a defensive movement, you immediately follow up with an offensive movement. Okay, it's like wrestlers today call it chain wrestling, moving one thing to the next. Well, that's kind of what Kobo Ichi is in a way. But the idea is to turn a defense into an offense, or if your offensive movement, he blocks it, and you might have to do a defensive movement to stay in the game, and then you hit again with an offensive movement. So it's a one thing leads to another. So defense and offense are one and the same. So in this video, I'm going to teach the fundamental block I think you should use in whether it's judo, sambo, any of the sports where we're fighting where we use a lot of throws. And it's the hip block and cutaway. It's based on taisabaki, body management, circular body movement, turning the hips in a circular way. That's what taisabaki is. It's body management is what it means. And you'll see in this video here, it's about a 3.5 minute video. What I was doing was practice one night. I was prepping the guys to do a hip block and cutaway defense drill. We drill on this quite a bit. And to me, this is the primary defense to be used in judo, sambo, any of the sports, like I said before, any of the sports where we use throws a lot. Because what you're doing, you're blocking them, you're stopping the attack dead in its tracks. You're instead of hopping around to avoid the attack, you're just stopping it dead. Okay, and that's what this is. That's what the hip block and cutaway is. You also will talk, I didn't mention it much in this video, but you jam a lot with your hands. I certainly mentioned this in my book, The Judo Advantage. I mentioned this in my book, Winning on the Mat. That's a good book to get, and it's out of print, by the way. So we do have that in stock in our bookstore, Winning on the Mat. So that's a good one to get. But I go into detail about different types of defense and aggressive defense in that book, but also on Judo Advantage. So that's, again, shameless plugs. And if you've seen this show before, you know I do shameless plugs. So there are a couple of shameless plugs for a couple of my books. But anyway, back to the main subject, Kobo Ichi and using a hip block, aggressive defense. So let's take a look at this video, and it'll explain itself pretty much. So here we go on aggressive defense.
Remember, you can turn a good defense into an offense real quick. The Japanese have a concept called Kobo Ichi. You know, offense, defense, when you need it. That's what this drill does. Okay? It's a really good drill, and that's why we're using it now. Okay? It's supposed to teach you a lot about posture and throwing. So posture is essential. If you've got good defense, you got good posture. Okay? So it all ties in together. So when we're gripping, we're doing a real active gripping drill. Now we're going to do that. And my job is I'm going to attack Derek, and I'm going to give you, say, about a minute. Derek's job for the whole minute is to stop all my attacks. It isn't with pushing and being bent over and being defensive. It's hip blocking and cutting away. What the Japanese call taisabaki, body management, body movement. Okay? You've got to have good body movement. It all leads with your hips. My friend Harry Parker once said, you know, always lead with your hips. Well, this is a perfect example. So we're gripping, and then the drill looks like this. We're fighting, we're gripping and everything. I got my grip, and he knows he's going to, because he wants to block. That's the job. I'm going to come in, I'm going to go, bam, he cuts me away. Come back in. I'm going to hit with a left side attack. Bam, he comes in. And I may hit the right side, left side. I'm going to hit 2 or 3 right in a row. He doesn't know what I'm going to hit with, okay? It's his job to block everything. I want to do all forward throws for this drill, because you could do, as we can take this drill, do cross-body osotos, leg work, whatever. But right now, I want to keep this focused, very direct, on stopping forward throws. Okay? So my job as the attacker would be, I'm going to attack for about a minute. I'll time it. Okay? And his job is to block for a minute. He doesn't know if it's could be right side attack, could be left side attack. And when he blocks them, new guys, this is for you. When I attack, let's say a right-sided throw, he's going to bop with his left hip. So my right, it's the opposite hip. Okay? So when I come in like this, bam, he blocks it away. See how he jams me away, pops me. He wants to completely stop the momentum of my forward movement. I want to slide my hip in and drill. Okay? Well, he wants to stop that. If I come in left side attack, bang, he cuts the other side, shoves away. Here's the drill. I attack for a minute, he blocks for a minute. What we don't want to see be bent over, do stupid stuff. We don't want to see me, you know, like this. I don't want to see any of that stuff. I don't want to see pushing away, bent over. Good posture, stop. Derek always wants to reset so he can be in position to attack. That's the idea of the Kobo Ichi. He will always pop me free, and he can slide right and hit it with his own move. Does that make sense to everybody? That's just good grappling, upright stuff, okay? You can always tell a weak grappler generally in the jacket sports, okay? If he's all bent over like this. Now, I've seen a lot of guys who fight out of a low crouch, like we had Chris Hecadon, world Sambo champion. He was hard to fight. He was short anyway. Sorry, Chris. He was short anyway, but his back was straight. He was leading with his hips, okay? But he wasn't low, but he wasn't bent over with his weight forward. We don't want to see any of that. That's what this drill can kind of stop. You'll attack for a minute, block for a minute, and then another guy will switch, okay? We'll just do a couple rounds of that to start tonight, and just do some of these guys. And then we'll do more as we practice, all right? So team up, whoever you want to work with. One guy defend, one guy block. I'll time you for a minute. We'll do it, okay? Good.
Okay, like I said, I was that was prepping the guys for. We went on after that video. We just did some hip block drills and some worked on that quite a bit. I would say work on this drill a lot. It teaches a couple things. One, teaches you to do a good aggressive defense and nullifies the throw completely. It teaches you to stay in position so you can reset quickly and counterattack. Again, the idea of Kobo Ichi, okay? Another thing it really does is teach you really good posture. Really good posture. And you need, like I explained in this video, you need good posture to have good defense. If you're bent over, it's what I call giving your opponent your hips. Okay, you're giving him space to attack you. If you're bent over, you're off balance with your weights forward in your shoulders, or your weights back in your butt, your rear end. You can be thrown easily forward or back. Okay, or you can be manipulated quite easily laterally to each side. So posture is important. Just think of any other sport we do. Did you ever see a championship tennis player try to play the sport crouched, really bent over, making a stroke with the racket? Did you ever see a boxer who was a good boxer bend over and start swinging wildly with his head in front of his hips? No, you don't. They have good posture, and it starts with a good straight back, good hip structure, and just like I mentioned in the video, lead with your hips. Like my good friend, God rest his soul, Harry Parker, said to me many years ago, always lead with your hips, and that's great advice. So that's what it is when you're doing an aggressive defense. So again, this is just one defense. There are a lot of different defenses against throws, but to me, I think this is the premier and best defense to teach new people. But you can also use this at every level of competition. You'll see this at every level of world-class judo, sambo, whatever it may be. People will be using hip blocks and cutaways in this taisabaki movement. So it's very well used, has a high rate of success, and I would really highly recommend drilling on it a lot. People don't work on enough defense, and I know we need to work on it more in my dojo too. So there you have it on an aggressive defense. We got I got a really good email from a viewer, and I've heard this before, and it's a subject that I'm going to do a full show on eventually, and it's about power judo. Power judo. So this individual writes in, my sensei says, don't use power judo. Use judo as strictly technique, and technique is sufficient. So, well, that's correct to a good degree. I don't want to disagree with your sensei. Technique. Good skillful technique is essential. That's what wins. That's what you use. But that technique has to come from somewhere. Everything needs power to generate force. If you attack someone, we'll say a seoinage, okay, over the seoinage, and you don't do it with sufficient force to get him to lift him up, break his balance to lift him up, and put him over your body and put him onto the mat. If you don't have force into that, you're not going to throw him. I mean, that's just the way it is. That's biomechanics. That's the way it really works. You need force, and force is generated from somewhere, and that power, when you drive off the mat with what we call a power leg. Jeff Gleason, I think, first coined that phrase many years ago. And you can use both feet as your power legs. And again, my book, The Judo Advantage, talks about that quite a bit. But again, another shameless plug. But yeah, that's power is necessary. Now, a lot of people mistake power for brute strength, and brute strength is different from power. Okay, power is the thing that generates the force that makes the throw work. It's just like the battery that makes the radio work, okay? And that's what power is. Power generates that force that creates the momentum, that creates the movement, that makes you throw helps you throw, not only helps you throw your opponent, not only control your own body, but control your opponent's body. So power judo, in the sense, I heard that many years ago, back in the 70s and 80s, people were saying, well, we don't do power judo. And if you just try and use brute strength, that's not good skill, and that's not going to win very long, okay? It's just, that's brute strength judo. And that's what people were calling power judo. And I think it was a catchy phrase to use. No, you need power in your judo. You do. You need power in anything. When you're walking down the street, think about how you walk. You need something to, every step you take, you push off with one foot and step on the other. You push off that foot and you just keep going. Well, when you push off the foot, hey, gravity works. It generates the power to propel you forward in a bipedal walking action. So that's power, and it generates force to make the step happen. Well, we need the same thing when we throw somebody, or even in ground fighting, newaza situations. You have to generate enough force from power to make your move work. And kazushi is really dependent upon power. Okay, I'm not saying it's dependent upon brute strength, dependent upon power. So think about that. So power judo is good. Brute strength judo is bad. So that's kind of the way of looking at it, okay? And thanks so much for that. That was a good email. It was a good question. Jujigatami Encyclopedia is out in its reprint form. Again, YMAA Publishing has produced both these books. I've got a 4-book deal with them, and they're great to work with, by the way. So don't just buy my books from YMAA, buy all their books. They have some great other books available. And by the way, one show I'm going to devote to doing some book reviews, some really interesting books. If you don't have these books, you should, no matter whether you do judo, sambo, jiu-jitsu, self-defense, whatever it may be, aikido. These books that I'm going to review down the line here, is a tease. Really worth reading. So, and some of them are published by YMAA, so that made me think of that. So, well, anyway, hey, that was it for today's show. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you sending in your emails and comments, keep watching. I really enjoy doing this show, and I really get good feedback from everybody watching this, which I really appreciate. So much for that, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.